Could your family evacuate your house in 12 minutes?
And if you did, could you stay away for a week?
So this is the Iron Fire, and it's currently at just over 31,000 acres. And as of this morning, they had 9% containment.
Yeah, so to put that into perspective, I think it's about the size of Manhattan. So pretty big area.
Let me give you a little backstory on the timeline. So fire was called in Friday night about 10:45. By morning, it was at 500 acres. Later in the day, it was 1,000 acres, then 2,000 acres. Saturday afternoon, the wind shifted and started driving the fire towards the town of Eureka.
From the time the wind shifted to the time the actual evacuation was 4 hours. But they didn't know they were gonna have to evacuate the town because it was pretty far away. I guess they're ready, set, go. When they gave the ready order, it was 2 miles out of town.
That was their trigger point when it hits 2 miles.
Now the fire was moving at 10 miles an hour. So if you figure 2 miles at 10 miles an hour, that's 12 minutes. From the time they said, hey, we might have to evacuate this town to
get out now.
Get out now. Here's the thing, it's a rural area, a lot of livestock. A lot of people, if they don't have livestock, they usually have a bunch of dogs, not just one, it's usually a bunch, and things like that. So part of prepping is being prepared for when something happens. It's not panicking. It's not being prepared to panic. It's, okay, where are we gonna put the horses if we have to evacuate? You have that ahead of time. You have it arranged ahead of time. A friend with a barn or a pasture.
I saw posts on Facebook of, I have 8 cots. I can put up a family of 8 in my home. I saw my truck is hooked up to the livestock trailer and I have room. Let me know where you need me to pick up.
And so we've seen a lot of these people, the community outside the area, even though it's a rural area, we've got small towns, it's a big geographic area of people coming together. It's really the churches here and the people and the schools, the school district, really that's kind of how we live in Utah. It's kind of a culture here to be prepared for things like this. But the cool thing is the Red Cross shelters, which is always put up when this happens, they have 5 people that showed up.
So it's been more of a communication center. Hey, I need a ride into town to get meds. I need to go check my animals, and then they get escorted in. I'm running low on dog food.
Yeah.
Well, they've got dog food.
It's been real neat to see the community. It's been a real faith-building experience, even though we haven't had to deal with it, thank goodness.
In the Pole Creek High School opened up their parking lot, and everyone had their camp trailers all parked there.
So they had way more time to evacuate
Yes.
in Pole Creek Fire, and so they had their RVs and everything else hooked up. These guys didn't. Their RVs, everything are still there. I mean, they literally had driving down the road on the loudspeaker, like in the TV, like in TV series or whatever you see on TV. And they had sheriff departments knocking doors, making sure that everybody could get out and was out. And then here's something that we learned this time. I knew this from being a firefighter, but I forgot it. Just keep that in mind. If you decide to defy an order to evacuate, you're gonna be on your own, 100% 18th century, no utilities, at least for 12, 24 hours, I would think. Probably longer than that if it's actually like a flood situation.
Now, the crazy thing, and we'll insert some more footage on this, the fire literally came up to backyards and back doors. The
Yes.
firefighters,
They were
in the backyards.
with the fire hoses, and it wasn't just little grass. It was scary stuff. It reminded me very similar to, if you've ever seen footage from the Paradise fire, the one that destroyed that town in Northern California a few years ago. That we almost had that situation here. If it wasn't for the volunteer fire departments, because it's all rural around here, holding the ground there in Eureka, they probably would have lost the town.
And they did that 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
They have not lost a single primary structure from the reports. Some sheds, some outbuildings, some things like that, but not any primary structures.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to what these volunteers, these people that live in our communities did.
So if you are a prepper and you're in a rural area, that may be something that you want to get into, is be a volunteer firefighter, learn this. There's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of skills behind it. Even if you don't do it long term, you learn a lot as a prepper, because prepping is all about skills and resources, right? If you have to evacuate, all the stuff you put up, all of the food and water and fuel and all that stuff isn't gonna do you any good if you're not there, if it gets destroyed. So skills and your community, a local mag or your whatever, but that's going to be a big resource for you in this time.
And then that segues into, like we said, they were evacuated Saturday night. I think the evac was at 8:20.
So you're looking at almost a week right now, 5 days right now. They're not
No.
4 days.
They just hit 72 hours.
Okay,
They're
so-
doing 72 hours tonight, but the first meeting to reevaluate is tomorrow.
It'll be 72 hours now. They're not even going to entertain the idea of them coming back for at least another day. So you're going to have minimum 4 days. That's why we always stress minimum, plan on 5 to 7 days for your emergency kit. 72 hours is like your bare minimum benchmark. But this is a little different than your survival 72-hour kit. This is you're going to need all your important documents, birth certificates, passports, copies of them, bare minimum copies of them, driver's license, social security cards, all that
Insurance
stuff.
cards.
Insurance policies and numbers, especially for property. Because here's the problem when you have a big situation like this. Had that town, so we're talking like say maybe a Helene or Palisades, actual structure destroyed and all that stuff is gone, you got to prove your identity to get help. There are a little bit of resources you can get until then, but in order to get on the disaster loans and all this stuff, all this federal help, the FEMA help that you see out there, you have to have federal ID. You have to prove who you are because there's so much fraud in it. So if you have a copy of that stuff, it's really easy to get the original documents versus going back and trying to prove who you are without any documentation. So I would do even the stuff you carry in your wallet, your driver's license and all that, I would have copies of that in your emergency evacuation kit. I'm not even gonna call it a 72-hour kit at this point.
No.
It's an evacuation kit. All your kids' social security numbers, all that stuff that you would need to identify yourself, anyone in your household, your animals, their information and
you may
all that
even need
stuff.
their vaccination record.
Yeah, it may even
Because if you're having to board them somewhere
You
or things
definitely
like that.
would need your animal vaccinations if you're having to go, especially
That's
for
another
dogs.
thing I didn't tell you is I've seen people saying, I have kennels available that are boarding facilities.
Yeah.
Hotels have posted saying, I have this many number of rooms. We are pet friendly. I mean, it has been amazing to watch the community.
So yeah,
But you can't rely on that.
but in the minute that you're doing that and you see a fire bearing down on you, or you see some instances of flood or whatever,
Wall of water.
where you're at, whatever you guys deal with, when you're seeing that come in and you're like, oh shit, I got to get out of here. It's panic time. I mean, regardless.
Not panic, but it is go time.
You're not. I mean, but in a sense, your adrenaline's pumping.
Yes.
You're going. You're not thinking straight. You're always going to forget stuff, and you're only worried about life at that point.
Yeah.
And so you're going to forget those important things.
The time to prepare for it is not when the emergency is across the street.
Yeah. So I mean,
It's now.
even if so, when the wind shifted, and they had 4 hours from the wind shift to go, if you as a prepper were mindset like, you know, the wind's just shifted, I can feel you can see the ash coming down or whatever, and you're kind of like, we may have to leave, then you can kind of like start putting stuff together. You have a little bit of time just kind of gather that stuff, but it's not always, that's not your mindset. If you're just kind of out there watching the fire and then all of a sudden it's, oh crap, you better go.
But like the most recent fire that started, the one down south,
Yeah.
they had immediate evacs, people literally running for their lives because the fire started.
Yeah,
So
and-
even in that situation,
And so,
you know,
just like in California with the Palisade fire, the wind drove most of that. The wind drives these fires here. This is fire season. We deal with it. I've lived here almost my whole life, and I've seen the mountains burn that I've lived up on, that was
multiple times.
multiple times my life. It's just part of life. It's very rare to have evacuations or towns, but once in a while a cabin will get burned or something. But for the most part, we're not California when it comes to that. They've got this down. Just like in Florida, they have the hurricanes down.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's any less dangerous. The biggest thing, and I do not have problems with breathing or anything like that, but the air is so thick with ash and particulates, you can literally feel it in your mouth. You can you could take a bite out of the air. It's gross. My throat's getting irritated just from being out here, things like that. Terry has asthma, So just take those kind of things into consideration too. Check on your neighbors, make sure your neighbors are getting out, make sure your neighbors have their stuff planned, or get a plan together with you and your neighbors if you live in an area where this may happen.
But the key point is do it now.
Yeah, do it.
Ahead of time.
And it's ready, set, go is the term. The trigger points are 2 miles.
On this fire, they were 2
Yeah,
miles.
so they have different trigger points, but they say ready, set, and go. And go is you're out the door, your car is started, you're rolling down the road. Not, let's get everyone in the car.
Yeah.
That's set. And ready is start packing your car, so packing your livestock. So learn your terminology for where you're at for your events that you have. Tornadoes, anyone in Tornado Alley probably gets how fast this was, because I've heard the sirens go off in Nebraska, and you just drop everything and head down to the cellar. So, so I've been in those situations too.
So anyway, we just wanted to come to you guys with this real life event that the things that we've talked about in the past will help you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an apocalyptic event that you're prepping for. It's just this reality. Things happen every single day. You never know when it's going to happen. Wake up to a fire. We went to bed. We weren't aware of the fire. Came up, and there's this huge fire across the lake from us. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.